In this episode of No Place Like Home, we discuss some challenging topics surrounding perinatal mental health that some listeners may find distressing. We advise listener discretion and have provided links for resources and support services in our show notes.
And then it was like I got to the point of vomiting and the midwives were like, yay, you're vomiting. I'm like, why are you yaying?
No one yayed when I vomited.
No, you missed out.
Yeah, it's so great when you vomit.
Hi everyone and welcome back to No Place Like Home. I am your host Larissa and I am joined today by Kath again. Hi Kath.
Hello.
And we are graced with the pleasure of Jazz Flowers.
Why, hello there.
Hi. We're going to get onto a topic today, Kath, aren't we?
We are. It's a juicy one.
We'll just throw you in that deep hole, Kath.
Off the ledge already.
Yep.
We're going to talk a bit today about the Australian Mothers and Babies report for 2022. It was dropped. And we
Induction.
put this, induction,
Specifically.
very specifically. So we put some stats out on Instagram a little bit ago and everyone was
Flooded
wild
with
for it.
comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of topic chatting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
And we're all probably a little bit
Bias.
biased
Well,
because we've all had inductions.
Every single pregnancy, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a
Kath's
few
had
babies
3.
between us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Three for me, two for you,
for me.
Riz.
Just the one for me.
Yeah.
And that was enough.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. If you haven't listened to Jazz's episode of her story, I suggest you go back and
Or not.
have a
Depends how
listen.
sad you want to be.
Yeah. And have a listen. But yes.
Induction all the same.
Looking back, I'd actually, mine were okay. I don't think, I wasn't traumatized by my inductions.
Me either.
And even with the benefit of hindsight, creating home and doing that whole thing and hearing and knowing horror stories and things that happen, I still, mine was still okay. It was fine. I didn't love the intensity of it. And it was my body struggled to know how to contract properly. So I just had continuous contraction.
I was too far cactus gone by that point. I went into as some of you might know if you've had a listen, but I went into labour on Sunday night and didn't get induced until Tuesday. So I was
It was a while.
It was a long time, so it was probably a good thing that I was induced when I was, but a bit sooner probably would have been better, to be fair.
Yeah.
But how were yours? Like you said, induced for all three. Were all three of your inductions different?
Different but similar. Different along the way. Interestingly enough, I've thought about this a lot since working here as well. We obviously work with a team of staff who a lot of them are really pro natural birth, spontaneous labour. I am not pro. I am pro-choice.
Yes.
I am pro whatever you want for your own body and your own outcome. As much as you can have choice in that, I am for that.
Absolutely.
For me, that was just the way it played out, and for different reasons.
Sure.
First time round for me, it was I really wanted the opportunity to have a natural delivery. I was very pregnant with a very big baby, and the option was put out for induction, and I wasn't against it.
Sure.
I'd worked in the medical field for quite a long time, and I just thought, okay, I may as well try it if that's what I'm being this is being talked to me as an option. Yeah. I'm for it. Yeah. And I still felt like I had control of that decision. So that's what I went for.
So how many weeks were you with Jude?
I was 38 and 3 when I was induced. After the fact that he was born, there was a lot of signs that said thank goodness we induced here.
Oh, right.
There was lots of things that happened.
How big was he?
He was 4 kilos.
Right.
Which I guess is like, kind of feels like we see babies here all the time, and I used to think that was quite a trophy when he was born.
Well, it is. That's got to be close to 10 pounds, doesn't it?
It was like 9 pound-ish.
It's a big bubba.
It is
Like I just felt like that at that time I was like, yeah, that's a medal for me. But regardless, it doesn't really matter what size your baby is. And it felt like, okay, we've made the right decision. He had his cord very tightly wound around his neck. It was stopping him from coming out.
Yeah, right.
And the bigger he grew, the tighter it was getting. But we didn't know that. Yeah, we didn't know that. So, yeah, he sort of needed quite a bit of resus afterwards. I would not say that I really thought about that as being anything that was related to induction for me. I still felt like I had relative control throughout that.
Yeah. And then Winnie?
Winnie was like quick and fast. It was. But same, the augmentation part of it, that this is your body not really doing this itself, that felt.
You needed some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we're talking about this because in this report, the statistics say that in 2022, 41% of mothers who gave birth had spontaneous labour. 33% of those had induction of labour and 26% had no labour at all. So,
Jazz, you birthed in 2022. You're a part of those stats.
Oh, that's interesting and makes me feel sick at the same time. So good. Keep going.
So it's relevant for us to talk about. There are this is the most up-to-date amount of stats that we've got around induction.
Yeah.
My guess is that they're the same, if not maybe slightly more.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 years on now. Yeah. I'd say they would be the same, if not slightly more.
So what's happening in the comments? What's happening? We need to read some of these out. So I just want to hear what everyone's got to say.
All right, let's do this. Do I have to get
Put your specs on, babes.
put my specs on, my old ones at that? Because God,
But they are a fabulous spec.
Yeah, I know. But I'm waiting.
They're
for my
super
new
glam.
ones.
So I guess just to give this a bit of context, we're obviously chatting about this because birth directly impacts postpartum largely.
Of course.
Certainly we experience that here in our care that we give. And how people birth doesn't always interpret what their postpartum's going to be, but it certainly does impact it.
Yeah, it does. So Izzy said she was induced at 39 weeks. Best, most beautiful labour compared to my first at 41 weeks and barely made it to the hospital. Yeah, that's
fair.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a rush that you don't.
But you don't need that in your life.
No, you don't.
No, induction sounds controlled.
Yeah.
And calm.
Yeah, that rushing to hospital barely made it does not.
No.
Call me crispy. I love that as an Instagram.
Oh, wait, that's the person's name?
That's
Call Me Crispy.
Call_me_crispy. Induced with first baby due to reduced movements, then cascade of intervention, epidural, vacuum, forceps, episiotomy. Spontaneous labour, second baby, used gas during transition, head borne in water, shoulder. Don't help me out here, Kath.
I feel like it's trying to say dislocation, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that one.
Just so everyone knows, I don't have a screen in front of me. I'm not just
Waiting and listening.
Yes, I'm waiting and listening.
Second degree tear. Recoveries were chalk and cheese. Felt amazing after second birth, not just physically but emotionally in comparison to the first one. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for what we know with induction in general, your body's not doing this on its own.
No.
There's been something that's triggered it for them. And as we know, there's lots of different methods of induction and what that looks like. And like we were saying for you before, Jazz, like your induction was that where you had started to go into spontaneous labour.
Yes.
And then stopped.
And then started. Then stopped. And it started.
Yeah.
And then went another couple of days, and it was a good time.
Yeah. So you needed a bit of help.
I did. I definitely needed a bit of help. It was getting beyond a joke at this point. So I would say induction essentially saved me. So
Yeah. Two schools of thoughts on it.
absolutely.
I think there's massive schools of thoughts on this, and we're certainly seeing this through the comments as well.
Yeah.
We literally cannot go through all these comments. We'll pick out a few more, but there are good and bad, and I think there's also neutral. There is a place for induction.
Of course.
Again, like I said, I am pro-choice. I think if some people have the option that they would like to be induced, and
that's what they want.
Exactly.
Then give them what they want.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more pro-choice now, as I didn't get mine. So being 100%.
Yeah.
If you want an induction, babes, you get one. It's what you want. If you don't want one, then don't get one.
Yeah. And I think
as long as you're safe and as long as your baby's safe, and and you know, I'm sure it's not just clear cut black and white like that, but pro-choice for sure.
I certainly know from speaking to guests that we have that are tentatively arriving to stay with us, who are coming sort of straight from that hospital stay. They talk to me a lot about the pressure that sits on them once they reach a certain point in their pregnancy, of whether it's perceived pressure or actual, when medical professionals start to want to intervene.
Yeah.
I feel like we're seeing a bit of that in the comments here, and that delineation between I chose to be induced because, you know, it can be I've had enough actually. I've had enough of being pregnant now. Or it could be actually, you know, there's an actual medical reason why we need to induce, and somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Lots of grey area, I guess.
There always is lots of grey area, but I think the grey area is not embraced enough. And there's too much black and white.
Yeah.
So if you don't do
fair.
this, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to do this, then this means this. It's like, okay, well, can we just
Calm down.
like let's just have a bit more grey. And I understand that there's circumstances where it needs to be that, like absolutely for the life of the baby and the mother. But I think, particularly around like that, okay, I'm 39 weeks now or 40 weeks, and the discussions are already starting about, okay, well, we need to induce, and, you know, look, it's an interesting play depending on who you speak to as well.
It's so personal, and everyone's got their own agenda, and they've got their own. Yeah, it's very, very personal. Yeah. Give me another one. Give me another comment. What do we got?
We have. Who am I going to choose? I want to. Yeah. So this one was from Christy Leah Brown. Second baby. Our first died during labour, and our induction was really special. I unfortunately knew the odds weren't in my favour to have a smooth birth process when induced, but thankfully that wasn't our circumstance. Our midwife was so proactive, protective of our space, and my daughter arrived after a 3-hour active labour into the birth pool. All of that meant my heart and my body entered early postpartum in the best way for me. But I don't think that's a common experience.
It's a beautiful comment. It's a heavy comment, but it's a beautiful comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people's experiences, like we've said, are all very different around what induction looks like. And from the perspective of like medical induction and what that looks like, and all different fields that sort of sit in between this, that would have been a scary decision to make for them.
Absolutely.
Terrifying.
And, you know, obviously the experience is very positive in the end, but I could imagine that there would have been a lot of fear that sat around that. Like we spoke earlier about like the birth trauma inquest and what that looked like, and all of the information that sat around that, and, you know, feeling coerced and whatnot. And I think that's relevant to talk about here as well, like with the stats so high for induction and how that's interpreted through, well, I mean, these are comments from people that feel drawn to say something about it.
Yeah.
I just am going to keep coming back to that choice. Like, sometimes it feels like even if you did have choice that you wanted to be induced, the outcome could be good or bad.
Absolutely.
So, I don't think, again, I just think it's this delineation that needs to always be sort of had and kept, you know. And I remember I wasn't educated, for lack of a better term, about what induction meant.
Oh, neither was I.
I didn't know. Like, I got to 41 weeks.
Same.
And my obstetrician was like, we're going to need to start thinking about induction. And I was like, okay, whatever. What does that mean? And for me, it was just like, I am a cook chook and I have a cook chook inside me. It was the height of summer, like early February.
Oofed.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I was like, sure. Well, what does that mean? And
like I did my birthing classes and learnt all about it, and still that didn't.
Yeah,
it
doesn't
didn't register.
penetrate.
It's not.
Yeah. I agree, Jazz. I was the same. I had it all.
But
and
should it be? Is it something that we should be talking about a lot more? And
I think with the stats looking like this, yes. But we also have spoken before about, you know, when people don't think that they're going to be one of those statistics or that,
for sure.
or that's not going to happen to me. It's not going to be relevant.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, with people who have really strong preferences for one or the other, I feel like, you know, the outcome is what it is. Hopefully, ideally, you know, you have a baby that's happy and you're not too
traumatized,
broken at the end of it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It does happen. Of course it does. So
I guess all of us have had this experience with induction. I'm so interested to know. I know parts of what your postpartum looked like. Immediately, how did you feel after you had Brody?
Awful.
Yeah.
Disaster. Oh, wait, immediately? Like
immediately.
Instantaneously when he was put on my chest?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was,
were you
relief.
there? You know, like I know you were there.
Absent-minded, very much so, unfortunately. But I do remember relief of, wow, that's done now. But then he was taken away from me too quick. So then I was sad again, and then everything kind of went downhill again after that. So the immediate, here's my boy, like I'm done now. Well, I thought I was done now. The immediate reaction would have been relief, I suppose, but I'm sure that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I guess it's hard, we don't have a comparison here for us, but that feeling of recovery afterwards, and again, I know that your story in particular is different in that there's been a long recovery for you since.
Yeah.
But, you know, in those early days for you, do you feel like, you know, was it birth in general and this would have happened anyway?
Regardless of induction? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, there is, again, I would never know. You can't possibly know the answer to that. But unless, I think, regardless of induction or not, I think the outcome of me giving birth to him naturally would have still resulted the same whether I was induced or not. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I don't actually know. But the fact that he was stuck, I don't know whether that's got to do with induction. Is that because you've tried to bring on my labour again, and he wasn't ready? Is that why he got stuck, because of induction? I don't think so. I just don't think he ever wanted to come out. That's why it was nearly 42 weeks that I was pregnant for. So you can't possibly know an answer to that. But I'd out of all the things that happened to me during the birth of my son, induction is not what I'm upset about in any capacity. Like that, it means literally, in the grand scheme of things, for me, means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was induced, whatever. Like it's completely just rolls off for me.
Yeah.
It's not.
There was a bit of work beforehand.
There was a bit of work
after.
Correct. And the induction has literally made there is no impact on my life of that induction that is noticeable to me now. There are multiple other things that still are that affect me daily, but induction is never something that
stands out in
not at all.
everything.
Yeah.
Obviously with induction we have the synthetic oxytocin. So we chat a lot about this and how it's processed in the body in an episode with Dr. Renee White, which is really, really interesting because she, being a scientist, goes into what it does in your body, how it behaves, how it interacts. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode as well, that is a really great episode to listen to. Do we just want to read a couple more comments for everyone?
Are there any bad ones?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, there are. An overwhelming amount, apparently. The ones that you've read so far, it hasn't been... It's been either positive or neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I'll read this one. I think it's Eddie Riley Rainbow. I was induced and it was a terrible idea for me. My contractions had no break and my body was so exhausted very quickly. So they tried to reverse it and then my waters broke. I had constant contractions for 8 hours. Oh my God.
Poor thing.
And the baby wasn't happy. I couldn't stop shaking from the pain and I won't get induced ever again. I'll let them come when they want to. I've heard a lot of women say that getting induced is a lot more painful, but I've only ever had one so far, so I'm no expert. I remember that was similar to me as well. I just had this constant contraction. And I remember then they came in and checked me and I was like, yes, I'm going to be almost there. And they're like, you're 2 centimetres. And I was like,
thanks.
What?
Good.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
That can't be accurate.
What? No.
Check again.
Please get the ruler out and have another go.
No, you're kidding me. And I remember looking at John and going, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this. Like, what do we do? And the midwife was like, do you want to try gas? And I was like, no, because that sense of feeling out of control, I knew I didn't like. But yeah, I remember that feeling of like just constant contraction. It was horrendous. And then it was like I got to the point of vomiting and the midwives were like, yay, you're vomiting. I'm like, why are you yaying?
No one yayed when I vomited.
No,
They were. Yeah, it's so great when you vomit.
What is that?
Well, it's a sign that things are progressing well.
Oh, Lord above. Like, really?
I'm not a midwife, so I won't say exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But I just know that it's a sign and it's a very positive sign. I feel that whole feeling around, I think when you think about induction, it feels like you're fighting against what is natural to happen. I think that is the way largely people view it. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, that is the vision for me that I have in my head.
And also I can't speak for everyone what birthing classes they have, but in all of the birthing classes that I had, induction was, in inverted commas, bad. It's bad.
Okay.
Because you should be letting your body do its thing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's certainly
good old chestnut.
What it should be.
What it should be.
Yes. Thank you for making me feel inadequate. Good.
Yeah, right.
That's what it did. Yeah, my body didn't do anything it was supposed to do.
I felt the same.
Well done, Jazz.
And I still find I use that phrasing. Like my body didn't know how to – I still use that. Like my body didn't know how to just have normal contractions or it didn't know how to go into labour.
Yeah.
And so I always make my body wrong. And it's just a really interesting – like I still hear myself say that and I'm like, no.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you actually still birthed a human.
Yeah, right.
So
well done you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's going back to the should.
And grew.
right?
Actually also it is such a small period of time that we focus on.
Yeah.
Does it have an impact on our postpartum? I don't know. I had 3 completely different postpartums.
Yeah.
So I would tend to say no from my own experience.
From my experience, I would also say no until someone far more intelligent than I comes in and says, Jazz, A, B, C, and D, this is why that happened. And maybe I would have a different opinion, but from the knowledge that I have right now, I would say it didn't impact me either.
Yeah. But you still had your, like, that's still your personal experience.
Yeah.
So regardless of like anyone else's, you know, letters and numbers after their name or, you know, whatever it is, no one can take that experience away from you as much as, you know, you would probably like it to be.
Just some of it.
Yeah.
Actually, no, all of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of it.
Yeah. It's, it just comes.
It's not funny. I'm sorry, everyone, but the giggling, everyone is laughing. It feels like they're laughing at me. They're not.
No,
this is all
we're
in
not.
jest. I'm here for comic relief.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No. Okay, have we got time for one more? Or Kath, do you want to slam us with some more starts?
I just feel like it's a great topic to talk about. Obviously, we could go on all day and read all of these. They're all really different, but there's a similar theme. And the theme is, you know, people are relating it to positive or negative.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily like the actual outcome isn't spoken about. It's not, okay, yeah, they might have had like an induction that was not something that they thought they would choose. And whether that was impacting the way they gave birth or not, again.
That's a question mark, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to read another one from Roberta_Nelson. Induced with first due to prom. What's prom, Kath?
I need to look at this.
Kath doesn't know. I love it, Jazz. It's not you, just you and I.
I was about to say, why didn't you ask me that? How come no one asked me? Because you know very well.
Premature rupture of membrane.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Great.
Sorry.
Two of us knew that. Induced with first due to prom and inconsistent heart rate monitoring, had a very positive and empowering birth with no further interventions following the SINT. I am going to assume that's Syntocin.
Yeah.
It was bloody hard, but I was so respected and supported to achieve the birth I intended.
Oh.
Second birth was spontaneous with no interventions, and my gosh, it's so much easier when you aren't induced with the natural surges giving you an actual break. But both were positive and postpartums were fairly similar / straightforward. Yeah, so there we go. We actually have someone that can verify having both experiences that, yes, obviously the natural surges, the intelligence of the body and the natural surges allow you to have more of a break.
Yeah.
I love the key words here: empowered, respected, supported.
What a again, I don't know if anyone heard me just audibly make noise and go, oh. Because it was just, it's a beautiful thing to read, because I did not feel that way in any capacity. So it's nice that some people are. That's beautiful to read.
It is. It's certainly what we want to hear, because there is so much
negativity.
And shitty experiences. And we know that unfortunately that it is majority of women that are having not great experiences. So it is really nice to hear women sharing these good experiences, because I kind of feel like it's far and few between. And I also think it's a bit like, you know, that the postpartum of like when your baby is sleeping and when your baby is like settling really well, and like you don't want to share that story because you're like, everyone else is, oh my God, I haven't slept for 3 days and you're like, I got a good 8 hours in last night. Thanks. You know, and you don't want to share that. I feel like this whole journey from pregnancy, birth to postpartum, the people that do have these amazing experiences,
they don't say them,
feel like they can't share because
Yeah.
they have had joy and they have had the happiness. And I think,
Do you know what's interesting is that even with the experience that I had, because I did have a sleeping baby and did have pretty much straight away. Like I was very fortunate in that regard. And I still didn't talk about it. Even after what I went through, I was like, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear you talking about that. So I didn't talk about that either. Like it's
all become very taboo. Like, unless you had this, you can still have an empowering birth experience, whether you're having natural spontaneous labour with vaginal delivery, whether you had
a C-section,
whether you were induced, whether you had a instrumental birth. Like it can still be empowering, and it can still be, what we want for everyone, which is to feel like
respected.
Yeah, respected, empowered.
That it's their choices.
And supported. Yeah.
That's us for this episode.
It's been good chats.
Thanks, ladies.
good chats.
Amazing.
Good chats.
We'll see you next episode, everyone.
Okay, bye.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.